Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Moksha. Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening, Arav. Okay, children. So turn on the videos now. In the last class, we have discussed. Turn on the videos first of all. Arav, Arya, Nera, turn on the video. Okay. So in the last class, we have discussed about the structure of the neuron, and we have written some part of it. Now we will be discussing the different types of the neurons. So do you have any idea that they are Moksha and Aryan? What are the different types of the neurons?
Mm,
No. Okay. Arav, is the control and quotation chapter done in the school or not?
No, ma'am, not started yet.
Okay. Moksha not done in the school?
Ma'am means it is done, but not that properly. It is done
No,
in
ma'am, not done.
7 to 8 days.
It is done only in how many days?
Ma'am, 7 to 8 periods. Ma'am, before
Okay,
it.
7 to 8.
For
Okay,
us,
understood. It means
they did quickly, ma'am. Not
okay. Okay, we will not be doing it quickly because we have to learn actually so many things in this chapter. So no worries. Okay. So talking, see, two things are there. We have studied about the structure in the last class. Now, two different types are there. One thing is depending upon the function of it, fine. Depending upon the movement actually, from where to where they are taking these signals. So they are carrying the signals. Okay, one is that, and the second one is basically depending upon the structure. Okay, two types of the neurons will be there. First, on the basis of the location on the where they will be taking the signals, and the second one is on the basis of the structure, how they are looking like. So, what normally we have learned the diagram that was of the multipolar the neuron. Fine. So we will be starting first of all on the basis of
Good evening,
the
ma'am.
location. Good evening, Sumo. So on the basis of location, there will be of three types: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and the interneuron. I think Sumuk, you will be knowing about this. Sensory neuron, motor neuron, and interneuron.
Ma'am, what were you explaining till now?
And this is I'm asking you actually. Do you know what are sensory neuron, motor neuron, and interneuron?
Yes, ma'am, they're part of the
Hmm.
reflex arc.
They're part of the reflex arc. Okay, but what are they?
Sensory neuron are those which act upon when we touch
Touch an hot
Uh,
object or
hot object or smell something.
See, that's what actually.
involuntary
See, both of
things.
you are correct. Aryan and Subha, both of you are correct. But my question was, what does it mean? Fine. So there's a difference between giving the example and giving the definition. So as I told you already, this chapter definitions are very, very important. So sensory neuron are basically the neuron that will be taking the sensory information. And what does mean by sensory information? Through the sense organ actually. Fine. Sensory information are those information which they will be getting from the sense organ. Like if I have the hand, the skin will be there, right? The skin will be getting the information, right? So that is what the sensory information. So as Sumukh has given the example, like touching the hot object. So that is because of my skin. So this is what a sensory information. So these sensory neuron, they will be actually uh, taking the sensory information from the environment. Environment means whatever we are doing. From there, they will be taking it and then they will be sending the signals to where? To the brain.
Brain.
Fine. So, be it like touching the hot object, be it like playing football. When you play the football, you will be seeing with the help of your eyes, right? So that is also what the sense of or sensory information that is, right? So that is what the sensory neuron. Second thing is the motor neuron. In the case of the motor neuron, children just will wait for a few more minutes because I think they are still joining. We'll wait
Ma'am,
for
my
one, two
video
minutes.
isn't detecting the cam. Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Dheerya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Just give me 5 minutes, ma'am.
Okay. Good evening, Shayan. How are you?
Good evening, ma'am.
Okay. So, sensory neuron, they will be taking the information and they
Good
will be
evening.
actually giving it to the brain. Good evening, Shubhansh. So, where were you from past few days?
Ma'am, I was having my exams. It just
Now
got
done?
over.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, motor neuron, what they will be doing, they will be actually, communicating the information from the brain to the tissue. So, whatever the brain will decide, they will be bringing that response to the different tissues, and then throughout the body, they will be carrying it. And because of which what happened, the movement will be there. For example, now the hot object we have touched, so that sensory information was carried to the brain, right? Now in return the brain has to do something, right? So that they will be giving the response. Those response will be going to the tissues, and here what tissues they're talking about? The nervous tissues. Okay, the nervous tissues as well as the muscular tissues. I think you might have learned about the muscular tissues also in the grade 9. So the
Yes, ma'am.
different types are there, like voluntary, involuntary, cardiac, muscle, striated, non-striated, all those are there, right? So they will also be working with. Fine. So brain, they will be bringing the response to the different tissues, and those tissues, then they will be giving the actually that response to the different body parts. And because of that, we will be doing the movement. Like, for example, now Shubhansh is playing football. I have passed the football to Shubhansh. Now, what he did, he will be looking to the football with the eyes. The eyes will be sending the information to the brain, that is through the sensory neuron. And then the brain will be giving the response through the motor neuron. And since the neuron has brought that information or the response, what happens automatically, that will reach to my legs and my legs will just kick that ball, or the Shubhansh leg will kick the ball, right? Football. So that is how that response through the brain, and then it got passed to the motor neuron, and ultimately that motor neuron in the form of the effector muscle cells, they have replied by kicking that football. Okay, so that is how it works. So these are the sensory and motor neurons. Whereas the third one, which is the interneuron, is basically the both when they connected together. Sensory neuron and the motor neuron, they will be actually making up together. So here it's a kinding, it's acting like a middleman, like the postman is there, right? They will be carrying the information from that, one source to the other source. Say here, for the case of the interneuron, the information will be actually acting as a middleman, and they will be transferring that message or the response from one part to the other part of the body. And like the learning thing, the memorizing thing, all these things, or the planning thing where you have to work, the brain has to work. So there this interneuron plays a major role, and that is why these interneuron are very important, because most of the activities which takes time, be it learning, be it writing, be it any kind of planning, be it like memorizing, everything will be done with the help of the interneuron. Fine. So sensory and the motor neuron, they will be doing the fast kind of the action, whereas the interneuron, they will be doing the little slow action. And that is why most of our neurons are basically the interneuron, where they will be taking time and they will be doing the activities. Am I clear, children? What are the three different types of the neuron, depending on the functions of it? Aryan, Hera,
Ma'am,
Aryan.
once again, can you explain the interneurons? I was not, I was
Okay,
disconnected at that.
interneuron. Okay, interneuron is basically, the middleman of the neuron, where both the kinds of the sensory neuron and the motor neuron, they will be bringing the information, and those information will be stored in the brain. So that is why, like, the thinking thing, the writing thing, the learning thing, the memorizing thing are done by the interneuron, because they take time. So they do not react immediately as like the sensory neuron or the motor neuron. What do? They will be taking time, and with the help of the brain, they will be doing the activities. And that is why we say that it takes most of the time to do the activities, because it has actually the logical thinking part will be done by this interneuron. Fine, Sumukh.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you're touching the hot plate, that is basically, because of the sensory neuron or because of the motor neuron, you're getting the response. But if I say that you need to write a letter, or you have to you have to tell me an answer, in that case, you will not be using your, sensory neuron or motor neuron. In that case, you will be using the interneuron to think and then to write your answer.
For applications.
Correct. For applications, you can say that, where you have to use your brain.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Okay. Now the next thing is types of neuron based on the structure. Fine. This was about the neuron depending upon the information where they are traveling with. The second thing is depending upon the structure. What structure do they have? There are three types: unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Is there any one of you who knows about this word? Shubhan, Shayan, Arav, Dhairya, Sumukh, Moksha, Aryan?
No, ma'am.
You
No.
know. Okay. So unipolar, polar, and multipolar, basically they are the neuron only. But what happened in their structure, either the axon is one, either they have one axon, one dendrite, or might be they have many dendrites and many axons. Fine. So this thing I'll be explaining you by drawing the diagram, because then only you'll be able to understand that. Just 1 minute. Is my screen visible to you all?
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
it
It's
visible?
visible. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. So unipolar, depending upon the structure of neuron. Wait. So types of neuron, and this type of neuron will be on the basis of structure, how the structure is. So it is of three types, which are unipolar. This is one word actually. Unipolar together you should write. Then bipolar and the multipolar. Fine. So unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar, these are the three types of neuron depending upon their structure. Now, in the case of the unipolar, what happens? They will have one axon. Fine. So in the structure, what do they have? They have only one axon. Whereas in the case of the bipolar, they will have one axon and one dendrite. Fine. So they will have one axon and one dendrite. Whereas in the case of the multipolar, what they have? They have one axon and many dendrites. Many dendrites. So unipolar, since the name says uni, it means one. So one axon they will have. Bipolar, it says they will have two parts actually. So one is the axon and one is a dendrite. And in the case of the multipolar, they will have one axon, but so many dendrites will be there. Okay. Now, these three will have actually, this is present in the sensory neuron. So, unipolar will be present in the sensory neuron, whereas bipolar is also present in the sensory neuron, where they will need only one axon and one dendrite. Whereas the last one, multipolar, they are present in motor neuron. Fine. Then the next thing, they are located, this unipolar, they are located in skin, muscles, and the internal organs. So our skin, the muscles, and the internal
Could you show
organs
the
will have,
previous page?
yeah, just a minute, Aaron, I'll show you. So this will have, then bipolar, they will be present in the retina of eye. Retina of eye. And whereas the motor neuron, it is present in the brain, which is basically the cerebral cortex part. So uni will have one axon only, bipolar will have one axon, one dendrite, and the multipolar will have one axon, but whereas so many dendrites will be there. Unipolar, they are present in the sensory neuron, bipolar is also present in sensory neuron, and the multipolar is present in the motor neuron. Then unipolar, they are found in the, or they are located in the skin, muscles, and the internal organs, whereas the bipolar, they are found in the retina of eye, and multipolar, they are found in the cerebral cortex.
Completed.
Ma'am, 1 minute. Ma'am.
The last page you want to see or this page?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, write it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Done, Aryan?
1 minute.
Okay. Huria, Shubhansh, Shayan, done?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, we'll see actually how are they look like. Now, as I already I said, in the case of the unipolar, what happened? They will have only one axon. So their structure will be like this. So like this, they will have what? They will have the one neuron, one axon. Fine. So this is what here? This is the cell body. This is the cell body here, or we can say it's soma. And then here, this is the axon. So like this, they have only one axon. This is the unipolar condition. unipolar condition. Whereas in the bipolar, they will have the cytone or the cell body in the center like this, and then they will have the cell body or soma. And this is the exon here. This one is the exon. Fine. This is so they will have one exon and then they will have the one dendrites like this. They will have. So one exon and one dendrite they will have in the case of the uh, bipolar. Now in the case of the multipolar, they will have so many dendrites along with the one axon like this. So normally the diagram what we draw or you see in your book is basically the multipolar neuron.
Ma'am, we don't study about unipolar and bipolar now.
No, generally actually in your normal 10th class we don't study any one of them. We just normal study about the neuron structure. They do not mention it unipolar, bipolar, and this multipolar, but you should know what are they. Okay, so normally in your book, what you have studied or in the school, what you have studied is the multipolar only. But when you go for your 12th class, or maybe when you go for your NEET classes and all, there you will be studying about each and every kind of the neuron. So as like it is present in the skin, unipolar muscle, it is present. So you will be learning the complete structure of it, where it is, how the transformation happen, how the signal goes.
Yes, ma'am.
So here the multi dendrites are there. So many dendrites are there. And this one is the axon. So that is about the all three types of the neuron depending upon the structure.
Ma'am, is it
Unipolar.
Ma'am, and
Hmm.
bipolar, is it soma?
Yeah, soma. Cell body, cyton, soma. All these three words are same.
Yes, ma'am.
All I've done making this diagram. Now shall we write the definition of the other neurons? Okay, so now depending upon the transformation or the transmission, they are of the three types. The first one is the sensory neuron. The second one is the motor neuron, and the last one is the interneuron. Sensory neuron, these neurons, what they will be doing, they will be carrying or they'll be taking the sensory information. And sensory information means through the sense organs, they will be taking the information from the environment and then sends the signal to the brain and then sends the signals to the brain. Whereas in case of the motor neuron, these neurons will communicate information from the brain to tissues and organs throughout the body. And the last one, interneuron. These neurons make up the majority of neuron in the body. And interneuron, I'm writing a few lines here also. So interneuron, then they are essential. They are essentially the middleman. So they are actually called as the middlemen. As like what they will be doing, they will be transmitting information between sensory and motor neuron. So between sensory and motor neuron, they will be passing the signals. So what do they do? Basically, they will be playing a key role in learning, memorizing, or maybe the planning. So that is the work of the interneuron. So write this. Am I clear, children, till here?
Yes, ma'am. 1 minute, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Aryan, Dada, Huria, Moksha, Shayan, Shubhansh.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you show the next page?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
All have done. So that's about the types of the neuron, depending upon the structure and the location. Interneuron, motor neuron, the sensory neuron, bipolar, polar, and the multipolar. Fine. So do you have any doubt? Driti, I think you have joined late, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you know what we have discussed today? Unipolar, bipolar, and the multipolar.
Ma'am, what?
We have discussed actually the types of neuron. I'll just explain you again. Just a minute. So you might be knowing about the sensory neuron, motor neuron, and the interneuron, right? So sensory neuron, what they will be doing, they will be actually carrying the signals from the sensory organ to the brain, and then in return, the brain will be giving response to the muscles, right? So when it goes to the brain, that is through the sensory neuron, and then when the response from the brain it comes to the muscle, that is the motor neuron. Whereas the interneuron that they will be doing, the majority of the work will be done by the interneuron. It is also called as a middleman, which helps in the transformation of the messages between the motor and the sensory neuron. So whatever we think, whatever we write, whatever we understand, whatever we memorize, that will be done by the interneuron. Now coming back to the structure. So depending upon the structure, the neurons will be of three types: unipolar, bipolar, and multipolar. Unipolar, the structure will have only one axon. Okay, so in the neuron, they will have only one axon in the case of the unipolar. Whereas in the case of the bipolar, they will have one axon and one dendrites in them. Whereas in the last one, multipolar, they will have one axon and many dendrites. So normally in your book, whatever diagram you have, that is of the multipolar, where you have so many dendrites and one axon. The other difference between unipolar, multipolar, and the bipolar is that in the case of the unipolar, it is present in the sensory neuron. The bipolar is also present in the sensory neuron, whereas the multipolar, they are found in the motor neuron. Then these unipolar, they are located in our skin, muscles, and in the internal organs. Whereas bipolar, they are found in the retina of our eye, and the motor neuron, they are present basically in the brain part, particularly in the cerebral part of the brain. Am I clear, Dhriti, the difference and what they are?
Yes, ma'am.
Unipolar, they will have only one axon. The bipolar, they will have one axon and one dendrite. That is why we say bipolar, because one axon is there, one dendrite is there. Whereas multipolar, they will have one axon and many dendrites. So this is how the structure of these three will be. As you can see in the unipolar, in the center they have the cell body and then they have only one axon. Then in the bipolar, in the center they have the cell body, whereas one dendrite will be the top. And the last one, multipolar, on the top, so many dendrites and the cell body together and one axon. So that is how they will be. So that is what we discussed in today's class about this uni, bi, and multi, and then sensory, motor, and the interneuron.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you for repeating.
No problem, Dhruti. Okay, children, then we'll meet you in the next class. And in the next class, we will be discussing about the neuromuscular junction and also about the reflex arc. This neuromuscular junction and the reflex arc are very, very important because from reflex arc, always they will be asking the questions for 3 marks. Either to explain with the help of example, or if not the explanation part, they will ask you to draw the diagram. If not the diagram, then they ask you in the given diagram to label the sensory neuron, motor neuron, interneuron, the effector muscles, all those things they will ask you to label it. So these things we will be learning in the next class. Fine?
Ma'am, are you taking an extra class tomorrow?
No, but I think you said like it is over. That's why like I thought not to take them.
Yes, ma'am, just a doubt. So,
No, anytime like if you wanted, just let me know. We'll take it. No problem with that.
yes,
Now,
ma'am.
when you have your next exam?
Ma'am, I don't know. In November, I think. October, we are free. Full. We don't have any exams in October.
So I think in that case, in the October month, you can work, those sheets which I have shared you yesterday, learn them. Okay, so that really will be helping you to get the idea how to write the answers. And children, like, whatever sheets we are sharing on the study material, learn them. So they will
Yes,
be actually helping you to write the answers, during your maybe the test series one, pre-board one, test series two, pre-board two, and your board exams also. So don't mug up them, just understand them and then write them in your own words. And never ever write in the paragraph, always write in the point form.
yes,
Fine?
ma'am.
Yeah, Huria, actually they ask about the types of neuron, not about the unipolar, bipolar, or the multipolar, but definitely about the sensory neuron, motor neuron, and the interneuron. So this uni, bipolar, and multipolar, why I told you it is because of your higher classes. So it comes there actually. Okay, children. Thank you. Okay, Huria.
Thank you,
Bye.
ma'am. Bye, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.